CEO of Coons Motor Inc., Alex Perdikis. Welcome back to the show, Alex.
Thank you for having me again.
Welcome,
I
Alex.
appreciate it.
Alex, we appreciate having you here. So before we dive into our topics today, how the heck is business this July 14th of 2025?
It's excellent. July's out to a great start. I think we had a great June, especially specifically in Ford, and I think July is actually out to outpace that pretty significantly at this point in time. We're up. Our traffic is up through the weekend about 50%. So seeing the results, yeah, really strong.
So what do you attribute that increase in traffic? That's a strong increase in floor traffic, 50%.
Well, I think you've got, so I'm going back to the beginning of July. So we had obviously the Ford employee program that ended on right after the 4th of July weekend. And then as soon as that ended, we already had a pretty significant rush of traffic, through June into that first week of July. Everyone's taking advantage of the pricing. And then we transitioned to the 000 program that Ford's offering now. So I think it's just a combination of things, kind of the perfect storm. And we're seeing it pretty much across the board. Used car traffic is very strong. Ford traffic is excellent. Lincoln traffic is strong. Import traffic's a little flat, but we're talking Ford today. So
Alex, what would you describe for us, first of all, what the new promotion is with Ford? So employee pricing for all, it was famously retweeted by Trump at the beginning of the tariff, and it created a lot of excitement. Other OEMs tried to follow. We saw a bump. What's the new program?
So the new program it's 000. So it's 0% financing for 48 months, zero money out of pocket, and zero payment for 90 days. So 000. And I think one of the things that was great about the Ford employee program is it was just a straightforward price, very easy to market, very easy for the employees to work, and for all of us to understand, and for the customer to understand, because it was exactly what we call in the Ford world A plan. So it was exactly the Ford factory finance or Ford factory employee pricing that you would get. Like I said before on the show, whether you were a 30-year employee or a customer that just walked in, you got the same price that Ford would offer to the employees. So with that said, a lot of the incentive went towards that pricing. And so when it came to financing and it came to the actual monthly outlay, which is really, over 80% of our clients finance, that in some cases didn't translate as well. So, and then Ford noticed that, we're not getting as much through Ford Credit. So the opportunity cost of offering the employee pricing for financing was a little bit of a concern. So we saw it early on, and we thought, look, let's look at these lease payments, let's look at these financing, and communicated with Ford about it, and they agreed. And what's great about Ford, again, there's open lines of communication, so they see where they're maybe not getting as many deals coming in through financing with Ford Credit, and they're like, okay, let's revisit what we're going to do the second half of the summer and continue some sort of an America program, because Ford builds more vehicles in America than anybody else, and let's continue on with something that's going to answer any concern that our clients are having up front at the moment. So again, most people finance. So with that being said, that monthly payment's important. Interest rates are top of mind. As listening to the news all morning this morning, everyone's talking about the Fed and the interest rates, and it's an important part for people, and it's a critical part of the deal. And I think Ford saw an opportunity to come back and recapture some business with Ford Credit. I think there was an opportunity cost that they dealt with by doing the employee program and not being able to subsidize rates and leases.
So it's interesting. You've seen a huge increase as a result of the new promotion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not hearing carte blanche accolades across the board. I'm hearing from some Ford dealers that are having the reverse experience. They're saying, hey, that employee pricing was better. The 000 is a step backwards. What is the dealer missing that says this isn't as good and we're not seeing as much floor traffic? Where's the disconnect?
Well, it might be, depends on the market. So if you're in Detroit, which I have a lot of friends that are dealers in Michigan, that A plan deal wasn't a great deal because most of the people there get it anyway. So again, it depends on the market. If you're in a big leasing market, the employee program probably wasn't a great program. If you're depending on like the Northeast part of this country that lease a lot of vehicles. So it depends. I think it's more of a regional, situation, so to speak. I know that our DC market was up last month in Ford. Wasn't up as much as everybody wanted it to be, but I know it was up. We also have to take in, you also have to look at a calendar and look at the market share days and take into account the year-over-year differences with selling days versus, the month ending on a holiday like May did. I'm sorry, the month ending on a weekend with the holiday weekend like May did with Memorial Day. And then you go right into June 2nd for market share. So you're taking a couple days away from your June results that you would have normally had on a normal calendar month, if that makes sense.
It
So,
does.
yeah.
So do you think there's something you're doing in your promotion or your advertising, your engagement with your team that's creating this big increase for you in the 000, or do you think you're doing kind of what everybody else is
I,
doing?
I think for us, it's a combination. We really pushed hard with the employee program through the 4th of July weekend. We've invested a lot in a lot of marketing and our ad dollars on digital, and as well as internally, really, really, really reaching out to all those customers to make sure that they really knew it was ending and take advantage of it. We went out on social media, we did a lot of stuff, and really treated July 7th like it was the last day of the month. That was the whole point. And then from that point on, after July 7th, we knew Ford was going to come out with something strong. And, we knew kind of the gist of what was going to probably happen, but we didn't know the actual program until we saw it the next day. And I think it just, in our market, in DC market, 0% resonates really, really well. We're not a huge lease market. So from a
Yeah.
financing standpoint, you hear 0%. You're going to get a lot of your clients that would normally, go to their credit union, maybe use a line of credit from a home equity line or whatever. They're going to come in and take advantage of the program. And really the payments, really across the board from leasing to financing, the payments with the 000 program, a lot of cases are much better.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So what models are performing best for you in this program with 000
It's
with
still
Ford?
it's still early to tell, but we've got some good programs going on with F-150. Super Duty trucks have got some good stuff going on. The 25 Explorer. It's right now it's kind of across the board. It's only been a week, but the traffic to see the increase that we're having is extremely encouraging.
It's so interesting because in so many ways, Ford Motor Company has been able to capitalize on some market shifts unlike other manufacturer and OEMs. So you think of the
Mhm.
'08 crisis, their ability to get loans in advance, put them in a super strong position. Ford right now, with so much of its production domestically, kind of capitalizes on the tariffs and tariff
Mhm.
threats. Um, can Ford continue to do this, lean into these incentives the way they are? Will they have to peel back at some point? What do you see the future of that here? And then we've got a question from our audience on the
Well,
on recalls.
I think that I think Ford is poised. It's in a perfect position. I was listening to CNBC this morning. 56% of the cars sold in the month of June were built in America in the entire
Yeah,
country. 56%
yeah,
of the new cars, and you're seeing that slowly ticking up ever since the tariff announcements. So I think it was 54% the month before, if I'm correct. So Ford again builds more cars in America, sells more cars in America that are built in America than any other manufacturer. So we're poised. We're poised to do very, very well. It's a great time to be a Ford dealer. And I think Ford, again, you go on talking about the not taking the loan payments back in 2008 and always being poised in a good and being proactive. I think they're looking ahead to continue with this momentum, right? So
yeah,
I
yeah,
think Ford's in a great position, and maybe and even they've got ability to retool some stuff and bring some more manufacturing into America versus other parts of North America, and
yeah.
those guys are thinking about everything right now.
All right. So a counter question to that from our audience, DNC says, Alex, any concerns with all the announced Ford recalls this year? 89 year to date seems like it's a
Hmm.
higher trend than in the past. What's
Sure.
causing this, and how do you look at it from a dealer perspective?
So there's definitely a fair amount of recalls out there, and I would say I actually look at it from a different perspective. I think Ford's being proactive and trying to get out in front of this stuff. They know. I mean, we've talked and met in our dealer the road shows that Jim Farley does with all of us, and we've sat down with a lot of the executives, and they all agree. We're all kind of on the same page here. There's no finger pointing or anything to that effect. And it's nice to hear them discuss, what's happening, and they're being proactive internally by trying to find these things and get them out as soon as possible. So I
Yeah.
actually think it's,
What?
it's a little bit, sometimes you might have to take a step back before you take two steps forward. Or I like to call it, sometimes you got to slow down and speed up. So I think the
Yeah.
way I look at it right now is Ford's doing what they can to get these things rectified and fixed. We've got inventory on our lots that we've got, we're sitting here waiting for solutions as well, that we could sell today. So
Yeah.
it's we're all kind of in the same boat, so to speak.
And actually, to DNC, you got to be fair to say there are multiple OEMs that are having recall
Mhm.
challenges right now, just period. It's
For
an
sure.
industry challenge. And
Yeah,
what the heck is going on with backup cameras? Like, it seems like in
yeah.
the news when we're reading it, like across the different OEMs, some of these high tech solutions are really seeing a higher frequency of failure and
Mhm.
challenge. And something as basic as a backup camera shouldn't be failing the way it is. So,
No, and it's the
um,
same vendors, right? So the same
yeah,
vendor might be, or the same supplier, pardon me, might be supplying Ford, that's supplying, GM, that's supplying Toyota, and yeah, yeah, you wouldn't think something like a backup camera, but you hear the stories, and
yeah,
we're in a situation where anyone that's a recent driver, I have two daughters that are new drivers in the last couple of years. They're used to all those safety mechanisms
congrats.
around them, backing up, and
Yeah,
when I grew up,
yeah.
you kind of looked over your shoulder, you use your mirrors, and so yeah, the backup camera thing is mystifying at times, but there's a lot of people that do rely on it, and it's dangerous if it's not working right.
Yeah. So let's shift from Ford for just a minute, and then we'll come back. So we're getting some other comments about the Ford OEM, but you also have Mazda.
Sure.
Mazda's an interesting OEM. Our auto group, we don't have it. We'd probably love it at some point. You don't hear a lot about it right now, but they just seem to be quietly winning. Talk to us a little
Right.
bit about the difference between Ford, Mazda. Do you have a favorite OEM? What would you like to see Mazda doing now?
Well, with Mazda, I think I ran a big Toyota store for a long time, and when so before I became a dealer on my own, and so I will tell you, Mazda and Toyota are very similar, and I don't, and I think we mentioned before on the show that Mazda Financial, which is the captive, took over from Chase many years ago,
Yes. Yep.
and Mazda Financial is actually Toyota Financial, so there's synergies there, and I think when you look at product development, when you look at what they're doing with their engine technologies, and they never really got into the hybrid and the EV race, so to speak, years ago, especially during the financial crisis. Mazda put all their money in refining fuel economy and building a better engine that would be better for the general public when it comes to miles per gallon and so forth. So they've been very, very deliberate and smart about investing in in R&D that's going to benefit the consumer, and might not be something you see on sheet metal, but when it comes down to the internals of the engine, and they've done a great job. And really, you look at Consumer Reports, Mazda is one of the best brands in the world. I mean, it really,
Yeah.
from not
So
even just but safety crash test ratings, and
yeah.
reliability, maintenance, and so forth.
So it's interesting. Rudy asks a great question. Rudy says Mazda, one of those brands that last decade, but not so popular. Why? And I think what he might mean, I'm going to just take
Yeah,
a guess here. They had such a cool ad campaign, zoom,
Mhm.
zoom, like
right.
they were all over the place. They've just kind of gone quiet. To your point, some affiliation with Toyota, they've just been kind of quietly reliable. Like, would you like to see them more aggressively out there in the marketing space? Or are you okay with kind of the current approach?
Well, the approach more now is more of it's an alternative to luxury kind of tactic, so to speak. So if you
Yeah.
sit in a Mazda right now, I can't tell you how many times I've had friends, family, you know, come over and look at a CX-5, top of the line signature edition, and they'll be like, "This is like a Lexus," or "This is as nice as the BMW, if not nicer." And we're seeing a lot on CX-90, for example, which is the new third row SUV that Mazda launched recently. We're getting X5s in on trade. We're getting X7s in on trade. We're getting Lexus RXs on trade. Vehicles we'd never seen before. So I'm going to push back on that a little bit. I think Mazda's done a really good job finding their niche, and and being able to target those customers that would be like perfect for the CX-90 as an example. And I think if you look at our ad strategies moving forward, we've got some. Mazda has a thing called retail go to market, and they're going to get very, very targeted starting in August, and expectations from the dealers is going to go up. So we spend a lot. Like I spend a lot of money in advertising. We're in the Washington D.C. market. We want to be number one. You don't have a choice. You got to spend a lot of money. If you looked at our financial statement, people think we're crazy, but we want to grow. We want to, we're aggressive. We're going to make every deal. We get every trade in. We're going to, win that customer and get them into our family and never lose them. But not every Mazda franchise is like that. And for a long time, Mazda wasn't top of mind for a lot of dealers. I mean, when I first got it, we didn't have a separate showroom. It was, we had kind of found a spot to put it in the side of the Ford showroom at one point, and then we knew we were going to do something with it. I mean, I think it's focus, commitment, and making sure that you're on top of it.
It's just an interesting OEM, Alex, because it's one that is just quietly winning. It's just quietly, you don't hear a lot of problems with it. We'd love to have the Mazda CEO on this show at some point just to kind of talk about that, their strategy. Other OEMs have kind of done that. I think of Honda. I think of some others that have just kind of been okay, just quietly growing. They don't have to throw something big out and then kind of disappoint on expectations. They just are kind of quietly. So you've got Ford, you've got Mazda, you've got Lincoln. Are you looking to grow as a dealer group?
Yes.
Who are you looking for? Where's your next acquisition? What's your strategy on growth?
So our strategy this year is a little different. We were a little more active last year. This year, there's been a lot more that's been presented to us versus us going out and looking for it. And so, not to sound like a cliche, but our most immediate growth is under our nose. We've got so much opportunity with Ford and our commercial truck business. Our commercial business last month was top 15 in the country, and that's going to keep growing. We kind of taken our eye off the ball during COVID and really focused on used cars, which was a great strategy at the time. But then you got to kind of come back after those years and get your allocations built back up, get your teams back on board, and refocus and re-energize the group. So, I mean, our biggest growth is right here. And we're not happy with where we are, and we know there's a lot more to be had, and that will give us opportunity to grow when it comes to the right opportunity coming along. We've looked at a lot of deals, and they just it's some cases it's like that customer that bought that car and paid over MSRP during COVID, and they think it's worth X amount. So you just got to be patient. When the right deal comes along, we're going to jump on the next one and keep growing. We're excited about our Lincoln franchise that we opened in downtown Bethesda a little less than 2 years ago, and that's been a huge boost to our business. And smart growth is what I like to call it.
So what do you think of as being some of the biggest threats to the business? We're mid-July right now. We're we're past the halfway mark to 2025. What kind of keeps you up at night, if anything, as you think about the rest of the year and the coming years?
I mean, the only thing is just some unforeseen event, right? I think that's the only thing. I'm not, knock on wood, we're not so obsessed about the tariffs, and worrying about all this stuff. I think we've got great leadership at Mazda, great leadership at Ford and Lincoln. They've obviously shown, they've taken, this time to really, separate themselves. Ford has, especially from the rest of the pack, as I would call it, in the competition. So, but you think about an unforeseen event, you worry about inflation, creeping back up again, interest rates going up. Like those are some of the things that I think about, not just from a retail standpoint of selling cars, but also from an internal standpoint of cost controls and being profitable, right? So,
Well, Alex Perdikis, CEO of Koons Motor, we're super pumped to have you on the show today. Thanks for sharing your perspective on all things Ford, the new promotion, Mazda. Thanks for allowing us to kind of walk around and talk about that a little bit. And when you do make that next buy sell, whether it's Ford, Lincoln, Mazda, whatever it is, we've got to get you on the buy sell track, or you got to become part of the CDG unveil. We want you to come unveil it here, just like Aaron did the Ferrari acquisition, Lake Forest, and so many other dealers have. We'd love to have you back on the show. Alex, thanks for being
I will commit that to you for sure.
Awesome. Love it. You'll hear it first. So thank you, Alex.
Thank you, guys.